All right, today we're tackling a high court case that if you're prepping for the bar exam in Australia, you absolutely have to know inside and out. It's Dasreef versus Hawchar. And look, this isn't just some dry case about dust, it's a complete masterclass on the rules of expert evidence.
So here's how we're going to break it down. We'll kick things off with the seriously flawed expert opinion that's right at the heart of this thing. Then we'll get into the Section 79 test and the 3 essential rules that basically came out of this case. After that, a really critical error made by the judge, and we'll wrap up with the wild twist that makes this case such a powerful lesson in evidence.
You know, at the end of the day, this is the question the High Court was really wrestling with. And it gets to the absolute core of what you as a future barrister are going to be doing pretty much every day in court, trying to prove or disprove the value of evidence. The answer the court gives here is, well, it's fundamental.
Okay, let's set the scene. We've got Mr. Nawaf Hawchar, a stonemason. After working for his employer, Dasreef, for more than 5 years, he developed silicosis. That's a nasty lung disease you get from breathing in silica dust. So, naturally, he sued his employer for negligence.
Now, to win, Mr. Hawchar's team had to show he was exposed to unsafe levels of dust. So they brought in an expert, Dr. Basden. His whole job was to give a professional opinion on how much dust Mr. Hawchar was likely breathing in and what simple safety measures, like wet cutting or better masks, could have stopped him from getting sick.
And there it is, the bombshell. 1,000 times the legal limit. That sounds absolutely devastating for the employer, right? But here's the catch. When he was cross-examined, Dr. Basden admitted this wasn't some precise scientific calculation. It was, and this is in his own words, just a ballpark figure. He basically threw it out there to justify why he was recommending a super heavy-duty respirator. The number itself wasn't really the point of his analysis.
And this, right here, is where it all goes wrong. The trial judge takes this ballpark number, which the expert himself said wasn't exact, and plugs it into a formula. He builds this very precise-looking finding of legal liability on what was, let's be honest, a completely inexact foundation. It's a classic mistake, and it's the very thing that kicked this whole case up to the High Court.
So why was this such a critical legal error? Well, it all comes down to the one rule, the one gateway that all expert evidence in New South Wales and other uniform evidence jurisdictions has to pass through, Section 79 of the Evidence Act.
Think of Section 79 as having 2 parts, or limbs. The first part is all about the person. Does this expert actually have specialized knowledge? Are they qualified? But the second part, and this was the crucial one here, is about the opinion itself. Is that opinion wholly or substantially based on their expertise? See, it's not enough to just be an expert. Your opinion has to be a direct result of that expertise.
And the High Court said, nope, that connection just wasn't there. Dr. Basden was a qualified chemical engineer, no doubt, but he admitted he'd only seen this kind of work done once, and he never actually measured the silica dust from it. He couldn't show the court how he got from his engineering knowledge to that 1,000 times number. The opinion wasn't based on his specialized knowledge, it was more of an educated guess, and for that calculation, that made it inadmissible.
So this brings us to the most important part of this whole case. Justice Hayden, in his judgment, lays out 3 rules that have now become the absolute go-to guide for Section 79. Seriously? For anyone prepping for the bar, these next 3 slides are pure gold. You have to know this. Okay, rule number 1 is all about transparency. The expert has to lay all their cards on the table. What facts are they taking for granted to come up with their opinion? Are they assuming the work was done in a small room or a big open space? You can't just leave the court guessing.
Rule 2 builds right on top of that. It's not enough to just list your assumptions. Those assumptions have to be backed up by actual evidence in the case. An expert opinion that's built on a foundation of unproven facts is totally worthless. You have to prove the building blocks before the court can trust the building.
And this is the final crucial piece of the puzzle. The expert has to show their work. They have to walk the court through the thinking process, the journey from the proven facts to the final opinion, using their special knowledge as the map. This is the bridge, and it's exactly the bridge that Dr. Basden's evidence failed to build for that 1,000 times figure.
But hold on, the expert's flawed opinion wasn't the only problem here. The case also shines a big bright light on a second major legal mistake, this time about the role of the judge. And this is another huge lesson for any up-and-coming advocate.
So the judge sat on a specialist court, the Dust Diseases Tribunal. He'd seen tons of these silicosis cases, So he pretty much said, hey, based on my experience from all these other cases, I just know this disease comes from really high exposure. And he used that personal knowledge to help him decide that Mr. Hawchar must have faced high exposure.
The High Court came down hard on this. They were crystal clear. This was a massive error. A judge can't just act as their own witness, bringing in private knowledge from other cases to decide the one they're hearing now. There are proper, formal ways to do this, like taking judicial notice of a fact that everybody knows is true. The judge did none of that. His personal experience is not evidence, period.
Okay, let's just do a quick recap. We've got expert evidence that shouldn't have been admitted for a key calculation. We've got a judge using his own experience instead of the evidence in front of him. Logically, you'd be thinking Dasreef's appeal is a total slam dunk, right? That Mr. Hawchar's case is toast. Well, you'd be wrong.
And this is the twist that makes this case so fascinating and so important to understand. Despite the trial judge getting the law on expert evidence and judicial reasoning completely wrong, his final decision that Mr. Hawchar should win was upheld. The High Court threw out Dasreef's appeal. How on earth is that possible?
Mr. Hawchar got lucky. He was saved by a whole bunch of other evidence that was perfectly fine and totally unchallenged. I mean, it was a fact he had silicosis. A pathologist testified that because he got sick so fast, his exposure must have been intense. And here's the kicker. There was uncontradicted evidence that Dasreef just failed to provide basic, well-known safety gear. That stuff, all by itself, was more than enough for the court to find negligence.
This quote, which Justice Hayden actually cites in the judgment, just sums it all up perfectly. An expert's job isn't to just show up and give the answer. It's to educate the court. It's to give the judge the tools, the facts, the assumptions, the reasoning, so the judge can build that bridge to the conclusion all on their own.
And that brings us to the real final takeaway for every single advocate. Yes, Mr. Hawchar won, but it was a very close call. He was saved because the other evidence of negligence was just so overwhelming. But think about it. In a closer case, a more balanced case, those two errors, they would have been absolutely fatal to his claim. The lesson from Dasreef is crystal clear. You have to master these rules. Know them, use them, and demand them from your opponent because you can't always count on getting lucky.